The warning that shook the stars. The bridge of the Krindor Dominion flagship Eternal Conquest hummed with the confidence of inevitable victory. Overlord Thaxmor stood before the observation viewport, his forearms clasped behind his crystalline back, watching the blue-green planet suspended in the darkness ahead. Earth, the locals called it, another primitive world, another easy conquest to add to the Dominion's collection. Behind him, War Master Zekval reviewed tactical displays with practiced efficiency. The amphibious commander's skin shifted through shades of deep purple, a sign of satisfaction among his species. They had assembled 30,000 warships for this operation, though Zekval privately believed they needed perhaps 100 at most. The humans possessed barely 300 vessels, cobbled together from outdated technology and desperate hope. Intelligence Officer Quinra's multiple eyes tracked data streams flowing across her console. The insectoid analyst had spent months studying human transmissions, learning their languages, understanding their fragmented political systems. Everything suggested this would be the simplest conquest in recent memory. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago. They fought among themselves over resources and ideology. They had never faced a truly unified threat. A communication request flashed across the main display. Thaxmor gestured with one crystalline hand, and the image materialized before them. A human woman appeared, wearing a simple blue uniform adorned with symbols the Dominion computers identified as military rank. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her brown eyes met Thaxmor's gaze without flinching. Commander Elena Vasquez represented Earth's Unified Defense Coalition, a hastily formed alliance of nations that had finally stopped bickering long enough to face extinction together. She had been chosen for this moment because of her diplomatic experience and her unshakable calm under pressure. Both qualities would be tested now. Overlord Thaxmor of the Krindor Dominion, Vasquez began, her voice steady through the translation matrix. I speak on behalf of the people of Earth and our solar system. We have received your demand for unconditional surrender. Thaxmor's translator converted his crystalline resonance into human language. Then you understand the futility of resistance. Your species will be integrated into the Dominion, as all others have been. Your world contains resources we require. Your people will serve the greater prosperity of the Empire. This is not negotiable. Vasquez nodded slowly as if considering his words carefully. Then she spoke words that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Overlord Thaxmor, Earth hereby delivers its official response to your ultimatum. Leave our solar system immediately. You have 48 hours. After that, we cannot guarantee your survival. The bridge of the Eternal Conquest fell silent. Then Zekval's laughter bubbled up like water boiling, soon joined by other officers throughout the command center. Even Quinra's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among her kind. Only Thaxmor remained still, studying the human commander's face for any sign of jest or madness. You cannot be serious, he said finally. Your entire military fleet numbers fewer than 500 vessels. We have brought 30,000 of our finest warships. Your weapons are primitive chemical propellants and crude energy projection. Our shields can withstand the death of stars. What possible threat could you pose to the Krindor Dominion? Vasquez's expression never changed. We are completely serious, Overlord. This is not a bluff or a negotiation tactic. This is your only warning. Withdraw now or face consequences you cannot imagine. The laughter died away, replaced by something colder. Thaxmor leaned forward, his crystalline features catching the light in sharp angles. In 2,500 years of expansion, the Dominion has conquered 8,000 star systems. We have faced species with technology far beyond yours. We have broken empires that spanned hundreds of worlds. Civilizations that built artificial stars surrendered to our might. And you, a fragmented species barely crawling from your single world, dare threaten us. I do not threaten, Vasquez replied, I warn. There is a difference. Then explain this difference to me, human. Thaxmor's voice took on an edge like breaking glass. Tell me what desperate fiction your leaders have constructed to convince themselves they can resist. Vasquez glanced down at a datapad, then back up at the Overlord. 40 years ago we detected your empire's radio transmissions. We learned of your expansion, your conquests, your philosophy of inevitable dominion. We understood that first contact would not be peaceful. So we prepared, Zekval interjected, his skin flushing orange with contempt. Prepared how? By building a few more primitive warships? By stockpiling chemical explosives? By turning our entire solar system into a weapon? Vasquez answered simply. Every major celestial body has been modified for our defense. What you see as civilian infrastructure is military architecture. What you interpret as industrial development is weapons deployment. For 40 years, humanity has done nothing but prepare for your arrival. Quinra's eyes refocused on her analysis displays. Overlord, she said quietly, there are anomalies in the human system. Energy signatures that do not match their declared technology level. Structural modifications to asteroids and moons that exceed normal mining operations. I attributed these to errors in our long-range sensors. Thaxmore's attention snapped to his intelligence officer. You knew of irregularities and said nothing? The data was inconclusive, Quinra defended. Human technology is so primitive that unusual readings seemed more likely to be sensor malfunctions than advanced military systems. Their public transmissions show constant conflict and inefficiency. Nothing suggested coordinated preparation. Vasquez smiled for the first time, and it was not a pleasant expression. That is what we wanted you to believe, Intelligence Officer Quinra. Every transmission you intercepted, every cultural broadcast, every piece of data you collected was carefully curated. Yes, humanity fights among itself. Yes, we have political divisions and ideological conflicts. But when faced with extinction, we possess a remarkable ability to unify and focus our creativity on a single purpose. Back on Earth, in the hardened command center, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chen Wei watched the conversation unfold on multiple displays. Around him, hundreds of technicians monitored systems that represented humanity's desperate gamble. The Admiral was a thin man in his 60s, with grey hair and eyes that had seen too many war games and contingency plans. He had spent the last 30 years of his life preparing for this moment. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo entered the command center, her security badge still swinging from the sprint down from her laboratory levels above. The weapons scientist was breathing hard, her dark skin gleaming with perspiration. Admiral, she reported, all primary systems are online. Project Sentinel is fully operational. Project Chimera is ready for deployment. Project Prometheus is charged and awaiting your authorization. Chen Wei nodded. How confident are you in the effectiveness of our countermeasures? Okonkwo's expression was grim. Against conventional Krindor technology, 90% effective. Against whatever surprises they might have held in reserve, unknown. But we have surprises of our own that their intelligence could never have predicted. In the presidential bunker complex in Washington, President Marcus Rivera addressed the Emergency Council of World Leaders. The former professor of military history had never imagined his academic expertise would be tested in actual interstellar warfare. Now he stood before representatives of every nation on Earth, knowing that his next words would determine humanity's fate. The Krindor expect us to surrender or be destroyed, Rivera said, his voice carrying the weight of billions of lives. They have conquered thousands of worlds using the same strategy, overwhelming force, superior technology, and the certainty that resistance is futile. But they have made one critical error. They have given us time to prepare, and they have underestimated what humans can accomplish when we face extinction. The Chinese premier leaned forward. Mr. President, our intelligence suggests the Krindor fleet could sterilize Earth's surface in a matter of hours. Are we certain this plan will work? Rivera met her eyes. Certain, no, confident. Yes, for 40 years, we have pooled every resource, recruited every brilliant mind, and focused our entire civilization on a single question. How do we survive first contact with a hostile superior force? The answer we developed is unconventional, brutal, and completely human. Back on the Eternal Conquest, Thaxmore had heard enough. He gestured, and Vasquez's image flickered but did not disappear. Our sensors show no weapons capable of threatening this fleet. Your bluff is transparent and pathetic. Then test it, Vasquez challenged. Cross the boundary of our solar system's outer planets. See what happens when you ignore Earth's warning. Thaxmore's forearms spread wide in a gesture of finality. You have wasted your one opportunity for peaceful integration. When we are finished, your species will serve the Dominion for 1,000 generations as a reminder of the price of arrogance. He signaled to cut the transmission. Overlord, Vasquez's voice stopped him. One final thing. In human history there is a saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." We have spoken softly. Now you will see our stick. The transmission ended. Zekval immediately began issuing orders. All ships, advance to assault formation. Prepare to demonstrate to these primitives what true power means. His skin had flushed deep crimson with anticipation. Quinra's mandibles clicked nervously. Overlord, should we not at least investigate the anomalies I mentioned? Perhaps send forward scouts to... Thaxmore cut her off with a sharp gesture. 30,000 ships, intelligence officer. Even if the humans possess hidden weapons, even if they have developed technology beyond our intelligence estimates, they cannot possibly threaten a fleet of this magnitude. We advance. The Krindor Armada moved forward like a metallic ocean, ships stretching in formation across millions of kilometers. Each vessel was a masterpiece of conquered technology, incorporating the best innovations from 100 subjugated species. Their shields could deflect asteroid impacts. Their weapons could crack continents. Their armor had been forged in the hearts of dying stars. In the command center beneath Earth, Admiral Chen Wei watched the alien fleet cross an invisible line on his tactical display. He pressed a single button. Across the solar system, humanity's true face revealed itself. The asteroid belt, which Krindor sensors had dismissed as natural debris and primitive mining operations, suddenly came alive with energy signatures. Thousands of asteroids that had been carefully hollowed out and converted into weapons platforms activated simultaneously. Massive railguns, each one capable of accelerating projectiles to 35% of light speed, swiveled toward the incoming Krindor fleet. These were not the crude kinetic weapons the Dominion expected. These were products of 40 years of focused human engineering, utilizing electromagnetic principles the Krindor had never fully explored because they had always relied on energy weapons. Dr. Okonkwo spoke calmly into her headset. Project Sentinel, weapons free. All platforms, fire at will. The asteroid spoke with the voice of human desperation. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons and moving at appreciable fractions of light speed, sleeted through space toward the Krindor fleet. These projectiles carried no explosive warheads, no energy signatures that alien sensors were designed to detect. They were simply matter moving at tremendous velocity, and they struck with the force of nuclear weapons. The first Krindor destroyer vanished in a spray of vaporized metal. Its shields, designed to deflect energy beams and absorb plasma bursts, offered no protection against solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The second and third destroyers followed, then cruisers, then capital ships. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, alarms shrieked in a dozen different frequencies. Zekval stared at his tactical display in disbelief as red indicators bloomed across his fleet. "We are under attack!" But from where? Sensors show no ships, no energy weapons. Quinra's multiple eyes tracked the incoming projectiles with growing horror. "They are using kinetic weapons," she reported. "Solid matter accelerated to near relativistic speeds. Our shields are not calibrated to stop them. Evasive maneuvers," Thaxmore commanded. "All ships scatter." But the Krindor fleet was too large, too tightly packed in their arrogant assault formation. Ships collided with each other trying to evade. More tungsten rods found their targets. Within minutes, 3,000 Krindor vessels had been destroyed or crippled. Vasquez's face appeared again on every Krindor ship's communication screen, unbidden and unstoppable. "You were warned," she said simply. "You have 46 hours remaining to leave our solar system. We will not warn you again." When giants stumble, the Krindor Dominion had never experienced what humans called a bloody nose. For 25 centuries, their wars had been calculated demonstrations of overwhelming power, followed by swift capitulation. Battles were won through technological superiority and numerical advantage, typically within hours. Casualties were measured in dozens, perhaps hundreds at most. The loss of 3,000 ships in the opening minutes of engagement was incomprehensible. Overlord Thaxmore stood rigid on his bridge, his crystalline form refracting the harsh emergency lighting in jagged patterns. Around him, damage reports flooded in with mechanical urgency. War Master Zekval's skin had gone pale gray, a color his species displayed only in extreme shock. Intelligence Officer Quinra's compound eyes tracked data with frantic speed, trying to understand what had just happened. "Withdraw to defensive perimeter Beta," Thaxmore ordered, his resonant voice tight with controlled fury. "Activate full sensor sweeps. I want to know the position of every weapon in this cursed system." The Krindor fleet pulled back beyond the orbit of Neptune, regrouping into defensive formations they had not used in living memory. Ships that moments ago had advanced with confidence now huddled together like frightened prey animals. Their mighty shields, designed to withstand energy weapons from any known civilization, had proven useless against simple metal traveling at impossible speeds. Admiral Chen Wei watched the alien withdrawal from his command center, his expression carefully neutral. Around him, cheers erupted from the technical staff. People embraced, some crying with relief. One junior officer actually fell to his knees in prayer. "Silence," Chen Wei commanded quietly, and the room obeyed instantly. The Admiral's voice carried the weight of hard experience. "This is only the beginning. They have lost 3% of their fleet. They still have 27,000 ships. Do not mistake a successful first strike for victory." Dr. Okonkwo approached with updated tactical assessments. The railgun platforms performed beyond specifications. "However, we have exhausted 40% of our prepared ammunition. The platforms need 6 hours minimum to fabricate new projectiles." "Then we move to Phase 2, Chen Wei decided. "Activate Project Chimera. Show them what Mars has been hiding." On the red planet, beneath the rusty surface that had fascinated human astronomers for centuries, entire cities of manufacturing facilities hummed to life. Humanity had not merely colonized Mars over the past 40 years. They had converted it into the largest autonomous weapons factory in the solar system. Launch bays that had been disguised as geological formations cracked open like flowers blooming in time-lapse. From these openings poured a swarm that defied comprehension. Millions upon millions of small objects, each no larger than a basketball, shot into space on trajectories calculated by quantum computers. To Krindor sensors, they looked like debris. Perhaps the remnants of destroyed human installations. They were anything but debris. Each sphere contained a rudimentary artificial intelligence, basic propulsion, and a small fusion warhead. Individually, they were insignificant. Collectively, they represented humanity's answer to numerical inferiority. If the Krindor had 30,000 ships, humanity would field 30 million autonomous weapons. The swarm spread through space like a metallic plague, moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually the product of advanced chaos mathematics. They approached the Krindor defensive perimeter from every angle simultaneously, making targeting impossible. Zekval watched the approaching cloud with mounting dread. "What are those things?" he demanded. Quinra's analysis scrolled across her displays. "Small autonomous devices. Each appears to contain a compact power source. Overlord, there are millions of them. Our point defense systems cannot possibly target them all." "Then target as many as possible," Thaxmore ordered. "Destroy them before they reach our ships." The Krindor fleet opened fire with every point defense laser, every plasma turret, every weapon system designed to stop incoming missiles and fighters. Space lit up with a light show of destruction. Thousands of the small spheres vaporized under the onslaught, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. It was not enough. The remaining spheres swarmed over the Krindor ships like microscopic predators attacking a much larger organism. They landed on hulls, bypassed shields that were designed to stop energy but not solid matter, and detonated. Each individual explosion was relatively small, but there were millions of them. A Krindor battlecruiser disappeared under a coating of the spheres, its hull obscured by countless detonations. When the explosions cleared, the ship was a drifting wreck, its armor shredded, its internal systems exposed to vacuum. Similar scenes played out across the fleet as the swarm found its targets. Warmaster Zekval's skin flashed through colors too rapidly to interpret, a sign of complete system overload among his species. "This is impossible. Their technology cannot support weapons of this sophistication." On Earth, President Rivera addressed the Unified Command Council. "The aliens are learning what human desperation can achieve. For 40 years, we have devoted our entire industrial capacity to a single goal: survival. Every resource, every innovation, every brilliant mind focused on preparing for this day." The European Union representative spoke up. "Mr. President, intelligence suggests the Krindor are regrouping. They will adapt to our tactics." Rivera nodded grimly. "Of course they will. They have conquered 8,000 worlds. They are not fools, but every hour they spend adapting is an hour we survive, and survival is victory for now. In the Krindor fleet, Thaxmore convened his senior commanders in a secure holographic conference. The faces of his officers showed emotions the Dominion fleet had rarely experienced: uncertainty, fear, and something approaching respect for their enemy. "They have ambushed us with unconventional weapons," Thaxmore stated, reasserting control through calm authority. "But they cannot sustain this level of output. War Master Zekval, reassess our approach. Clearly the humans have prepared more thoroughly than our intelligence suggested." Zekval's tactical mind overcame his shock. The kinetic platforms in their asteroid belt are powerful but limited in ammunition. The autonomous swarm is numerous but individually weak. If we advance in dispersed formation, use our shields against their energy weapons while evading their kinetic strikes, we can overwhelm them through attrition. Quinra's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "There is another concern, Overlord. The humans broadcast our initial defeat on all frequencies. Our subject species have received these transmissions. There are reports of unrest on 17 conquered worlds. They see that the Dominion can bleed." Thaxmore's crystalline form seemed to harden further. "Then we must demonstrate that bleeding does not mean dying. Prepare for a second assault. This time we advance with full knowledge of what we face." But the Overlord was wrong. He did not have full knowledge. He could not have imagined what else humanity had prepared. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Reeves piloted his stealth fighter through the void between worlds, his enhanced nervous system allowing him to process information at speeds that would overwhelm an unmodified human. Around him flew 50 more pilots, each one a volunteer who had accepted genetic modifications and cybernetic enhancements that made them more machine than flesh. Ghost Squadron. "This is Ghost Leader." Reeves transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels that Krindor sensors could not intercept. "The enemy is regrouping at coordinates Sierra 7. We are authorized to demonstrate Project Wraith." His squadron mates acknowledged with minimal words. They had trained for this moment for 15 years, pushing their augmented bodies through simulations that killed weaker candidates. Each pilot was connected directly to their ship through neural interfaces, making the craft an extension of their own body. The stealth fighters were technological marvels that should not have existed. Humanity had reverse-engineered principles from captured Krindor probe technology, then improved upon them with characteristic human audacity. The ships bent light around themselves, absorbed electromagnetic radiation, and left virtually no thermal signature. To the Krindor fleet's sensors, they were invisible ghosts. Reeves felt his ship respond to his thoughts as it accelerated to combat velocity. The G-forces would have killed an unmodified human instantly, but his reinforced skeleton and enhanced cardiovascular system handled the stress with ease. Neural feedback showed him the position of every enemy ship, every asteroid, every piece of debris in his tactical awareness. The Krindor fleet had reformed into a dispersed pattern, ships separated by thousands of kilometers to minimize vulnerability to kinetic strikes and swarm weapons. It was tactically sound, which meant it was predictable. And predictability was a fatal weakness when facing humans. Ghost Squadron materialized from nowhere in the heart of the Krindor formation. One moment, sensors showed empty space. The next, 50 human fighters were among the alien ships, moving at velocities that defied Krindor understanding of survivability. Reeves targeted a Krindor carrier, his enhanced perception slowing time as he calculated angles and trajectories with inhuman precision. His ship's weapons were not energy beams or missiles. They were quantum disruption devices that collapsed the exotic matter fields, keeping Krindor power cores stable. He fired. The Krindor carrier's lights went dark. Its engines died. Its shields collapsed. The massive ship became a drifting tomb in seconds, its crew left gasping in failing life support. Across the Krindor formation, similar scenes played out as Ghost Squadrons struck with surgical precision. Each pilot targeted critical infrastructure: power cores, command centers, shield generators. They moved too fast for Krindor weapons to track, too unpredictably for targeting computers to lock on. On the Eternal Conquest, Thaxmore watched in horror as his fleet's technological advantage evaporated. "How are they moving so fast?" he demanded. "No organic pilot can survive those acceleration forces." "They are not entirely organic anymore," Quinra realized. her analysis finally catching up to reality. The humans have modified themselves. They have turned their own bodies into weapons. It was an obscene thought to the Krindor. The Dominion conquered through technological supremacy, not by degrading their own biology. The idea that a species would voluntarily alter themselves for military advantage was both horrifying and tactically brilliant. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo monitored the battle from her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by biological containment systems and quantum computers. She had spent 20 years developing humanity's most controversial weapon, something so ethically questionable that it had nearly been banned even in the face of extinction. Project Pandora is ready for deployment, she reported to Admiral Chen Wei. Authorization codes required for release. Chen Wei hesitated. Project Pandora was biological warfare on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Engineered viruses designed specifically to target Krindor physiology, capable of spreading through their ship's life support systems like wildfire. It was horrific. It was effective, and it might be necessary. Stand by, the Admiral ordered. We will use Pandora only if conventional methods fail. But even as he spoke, another element of Earth's defense activated without anyone's orders. On Venus, hidden within the planet's crushing atmosphere and sulfuric acid clouds, humanity had built something that would have seemed impossible to any sane engineer. Atmospheric weapons platforms, suspended by balloons made of materials that could withstand conditions hot enough to melt lead, began to fire. They used the planet's own atmosphere as a weapon, focusing and accelerating clouds of sulfuric acid into relativistic jets that lanced through space toward Krindor ships. The alien vessels had shields capable of withstanding plasma and energy beams. They were not designed to defend against concentrated chemical weapons, traveling at appreciable fractions of light speed. Hulls designed to withstand the vacuum of space dissolved like tissue paper under the acid onslaught. Zekval's skin had gone completely white, a color his species displayed only when facing certain death. Overlord, we have lost 11,000 ships. 11,000! This is unsustainable. Thaxmore stood frozen, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he faced a truth the Krindor Dominion had never confronted. They were losing. Commander Elena Vasquez appeared once more on every Krindor ship's display, her face calm and unyielding. You now have 36 hours to withdraw from our solar system. We have demonstrated only a fraction of our capabilities. Leave now or we will demonstrate the rest. The transmission ended, leaving the Krindor fleet to contemplate something they had never before experienced, the possibility of complete defeat at the hands of a supposedly inferior species. And in the depths of space, humanity's hidden weapons waited for the next phase of the battle, ready to show the galaxy what desperation could create. The price of underestimating humanity, Overlord. Thaxmore had ruled for 3 centuries through calculated ruthlessness and unwavering confidence in Krindor supremacy. Now, for the first time in his long existence, he felt something he had only witnessed in others: genuine fear. His fleet, once 30,000 strong, had been reduced to fewer than 19,000 operational vessels in less than 12 hours of engagement. The holographic display before him showed the tactical situation in merciless detail. Red zones marked areas where human weapons had established dominance. Blue zones indicated safe withdrawal routes, though safe was becoming a relative term. Yellow zones represented unknown threats, and those yellow zones were expanding like a cancer across the display. We must withdraw, War Master Zekval insisted, his skin now a mottled pattern of pale fear and dark shame. Every military doctrine we possess says we should regroup, analyze their capabilities, and return with appropriate countermeasures. Thaxmore's crystalline hands gripped the edge of his command console. If we withdraw, every species in the galaxy will know the Krindor Dominion was defeated by a single planet. Our subject worlds will rebel. Our enemies will grow bold. The empire we have built over 25 centuries will crumble. Better a damaged empire than annihilation, Quinra observed quietly. Intelligence officer. Her compound eyes tracked incoming data with desperate speed. Overlord, I am detecting new energy signatures from the planet they call Jupiter. Whatever they are preparing next, it is enormous. Show me, Thaxmore commanded. The display shifted to show the gas giant and its constellation of moons. For weeks, Crindor sensors had identified these moons as natural satellites with minimal infrastructure. Now those natural satellites were revealing their true nature. Europa, Io, Ganymede, and Callisto began to split along carefully engineered fault lines, their icy or rocky surfaces pulling apart like mechanical flowers. Beneath those surfaces lay something that made Thaxmore's species-specific sense of dread activate for the first time in his life. Each moon was hollow, converted over decades into a massive weapons platform, antimatter containment systems, fusion reactors powerful enough to dwarf stars, and weapons that bent the laws of physics to humanity's desperate will. Admiral Chen Wei watched Jupiter's moons reveal themselves with quiet satisfaction. The gas giant's powerful gravitational field had provided both energy and cover for humanity's most ambitious engineering project. Converting entire moons into weapons platforms should have been impossible. Humanity had done it anyway, because the alternative was extinction. Project Titan is online, reported Dr. Okonkwo from her station. All 4 platforms are charged and ready. Antimatter reserves are at maximum capacity. Chen Wei nodded slowly. Do not fire yet. Let them see what we have built. Let them understand the scale of their miscalculation. On the Eternal Conquest, Thaxmore was indeed understanding. Each of those moon-sized platforms contained enough antimatter to sterilize entire continents. The energy readings suggested weapons that could crack planets apart if fully unleashed, and the humans had 4 of them, positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire across the entire inner solar system. How? Thaxmore whispered. How could a species barely capable of interstellar travel construct weapons of this magnitude? Quindra's analysis provided the terrible answer. Because they devoted everything to it, Overlord. Their entire civilization for 40 years has focused on a single goal, making our conquest impossible. They sacrificed economic growth, artistic development, perhaps even social progress. They became a species with one purpose, to make us regret coming here. Zekville pulled up historical data on his tactical displays. I have been reviewing human military history. This species has a pattern. When facing extinction, they do not surrender. They adapt, they innovate, they fight with whatever tools they possess, until either they win or they are completely destroyed. President Marcus Rivera stood before the emergency session of humanity's unified government, his face showing the exhaustion of days without sleep. In his hand, he held a data tablet containing authorization codes that could unleash weapons capable of changing the galactic balance of power forever. The Crindor fleet is wavering, he reported. Our intelligence suggests internal debate about whether to withdraw or press forward. We have damaged their confidence. Now we must break their will entirely. The African Union representative raised a hand. Mr. President, if we force them to flee, will they not simply return with greater force? Rivera's expression hardened. That is why we will not simply force them to flee. We will pursue them. We will strike their supply lines. We will demonstrate that attacking Earth carries consequences that extend far beyond our solar system. The room erupted in startled conversation. The plan had always been defensive. Protect Earth, survive long enough for the Crindor to decide conquest was too costly. Rivera was now proposing something far more aggressive. The Chinese premier spoke over the noise. You propose that we take the war to them? That we, a species with 300 ships, attack an empire spanning 8,000 worlds? Not attack, Rivera corrected. Punish, make an example. Show the galaxy that Earth is not prey to be hunted, but a predator to be feared. In a secure communication facility on Mars, Commander Elena Vasquez received updated orders from Earth Command. She read them twice, then a third time, making certain she understood correctly. The new directives represented a fundamental shift in humanity's strategy, from survival to retaliation. She opened a channel to the Crindor flagship. Overlord Thaxmore, this is Commander Vasquez. I have new instructions from Earth's unified government. Thaxmore's crystalline face appeared on her display, and for the first time, Vasquez saw uncertainty in those alien features. What new horrors do you wish to threaten us with, human? Not threats, Vasquez replied calmly. Terms. Earth hereby demands the complete withdrawal of all Crindor forces from this stellar region. You will retreat beyond a boundary defined by coordinates I am transmitting now. You will pay reparations for the unprovoked attack on our system. And you will release 17 of your subject species who have requested independence. The Krindor bridge erupted in outraged chatter. Thaxamor silenced them with a gesture. You are insane. We still outnumber your forces by a factor of 60 to 1, do you? Vasquez challenged. Show him, she ordered someone off-screen. The display changed to show deep space beyond Neptune's orbit. There, previously invisible to Krindor sensors, a fleet materialized. Hundreds of human ships that had been hiding in stealth mode, using technology reverse-engineered from Krindor probe designs and improved upon with characteristic human ingenuity. But more importantly, the display showed ships that were not human, vessels from 3 of the Krindor's subject species, crews who had secretly been building their own fleets while pretending loyal service to the Dominion. They had been waiting for someone to prove the Empire was vulnerable. Earth had provided that proof. We have been in communication with your subject species for 10 years, Vasquez explained. We shared our defensive preparations with them. We helped them build ships in hidden shipyards. We waited for the right moment to show them that the Dominion is not invincible. Thaxamor felt his carefully constructed reality crumbling. The Dominion's power was based on a fundamental assumption. Resistance was futile because the Krindor always won. But they were not winning against Earth. They were dying in numbers that would have been unthinkable hours ago. You have 12 hours to accept our terms, Vasquez continued. After that, we will demonstrate our most powerful weapon. We call it Project Prometheus. Dr. Okonkwo made final adjustments to the focusing array that ringed Mercury, humanity's closest planet to the Sun. The tiny world had been converted into the solar system's largest solar collector, covered in reflective surfaces and quantum lenses that could capture and redirect the Sun's energy. Project Prometheus is ready, she reported to Admiral Chen Wei. We can demonstrate its capability on the target you selected. The target was an uninhabited moon in Krindor-controlled space, a military installation that served as a supply depot for the invasion fleet. It was far enough from inhabited worlds that its destruction would cause no civilian casualties, but close enough that the Krindor fleet could watch their military infrastructure vanish in real time. Chen Wei hesitated one final time before giving the order. Once we demonstrate this capability, there is no going back. The galaxy will know we can weaponize stellar energy on a scale never before achieved. That is precisely the point, Admiral. President Rivera's voice came through on a secure channel. Let them see what humanity can do when pushed to the edge. Chen Wei gave the authorization codes. On Mercury, the focusing array activated. It captured a fraction of the Sun's energy output, concentrated it through quantum lenses that should not have been able to exist according to conventional physics, and redirected it across light years of space through a wormhole generator that represented humanity's most advanced theoretical physics achievement. The Krindor supply moon never knew what hit it. One moment it existed, the next, a beam of concentrated solar energy capable of vaporizing continents struck with surgical precision. The moon's surface temperature jumped to millions of degrees in microseconds. Rock vaporized. Metal sublimated directly into plasma. In less than 30 seconds, the entire installation was simply gone, leaving only an expanding cloud of ionized particles. On the Eternal Conquest, Thaxamor watched the destruction in complete silence. His tactical computers calculated the energy required for such a strike. The numbers were impossible. No conventional power source could generate that much focused energy. Unless the humans had found a way to weaponize stellar output itself, they turned their sun into a gun, Zekval whispered, his skin now completely colorless with shock. They looked at the most powerful energy source in their system and asked how to make it kill for them. Quinra's mandibles trembled. Overlord, if they can do this to an uninhabited moon, they can do it to our worlds. They can sterilize any planet in Krindor space without ever leaving their solar system. The implications were staggering. The entire strategic balance of galactic power had just shifted. If humanity could weaponize stellar energy and project it across interstellar distances, no Krindor world was safe. The Dominion's fleets, their fortified worlds, their centuries of accumulated military advantage meant nothing against a weapon that could sterilize planets from light years away. Thaxamor's 4 arms trembled slightly as he processed this new reality. In a single demonstration, the humans had transformed from prey into predator. The overlord who had commanded with absolute certainty hours ago now faced a decision that would define the future of his entire civilization. "Open a channel to the human commander," he ordered quietly. When Vasquez's face appeared, Thaxmore saw something in her eyes that he had only seen in mirrors, the cold calculation of someone who held overwhelming power and knew it. The power dynamic had completely reversed. "You have made your point, Commander Vasquez," Thaxmore said, choosing his words carefully. "The Krindor Dominion acknowledges that conquest of Earth would be inadvisable. We are prepared to withdraw our forces." Vasquez shook her head slowly. "Withdrawal is insufficient, Overlord. You came to our system with intent to enslave our species. You threatened our extinction. Withdrawal implies you might return when better prepared." "That is unacceptable. What do you want from us?" Thaxmore asked, and hated hearing the defeat in his own voice. President Rivera's face appeared beside Vasquez's on the transmission. Part 3, The Price of Underestimating Humanity, continued. The implications were staggering. The entire strategic balance of galactic power had just shifted. If humanity could weaponize stellar energy and project it across interstellar distances, no Krindor world was safe. The Dominion's fleets, their fortified worlds, their centuries of accumulated military advantage meant nothing against a weapon that could sterilize planets from light years away. Thaxmore's forearms trembled slightly as he processed this new reality. In a single demonstration, the humans had transformed from prey into predator. The overlord who had commanded with absolute certainty hours ago now faced a decision that would define the future of his entire civilization. "Open a channel to the human commander," he ordered quietly. When Vasquez's face appeared, Thaxmore saw something in her eyes that he had only seen in mirrors, the cold calculation of someone who held overwhelming power and knew it. The power dynamic had completely reversed. "You have made your point, Commander Vasquez," Thaxmore said, choosing his words carefully. "The Krindor Dominion acknowledges that conquest of Earth would be inadvisable. We are prepared to withdraw our forces." Vasquez shook her head slowly. "Withdrawal is insufficient, Overlord. You came to our system with intent to enslave our species. You threatened our extinction. Withdrawal implies you might return when better prepared." "That is unacceptable. What do you want from us?" Thaxmore asked, and hated hearing the defeat in his own voice. President Rivera's face appeared beside Vasquez's on the transmission. The human leader's expression was carefully controlled, but his words carried the weight of absolute conviction. "The Krindor Dominion will withdraw all military forces from this stellar sector. You will recognize Earth's sovereignty over a defensive zone extending 50 light-years from our sun. You will pay reparations in technology and resources for the unprovoked attack on our system." "That is humiliation," Thaxmore protested. The Dominion has never faced consequences for its aggression," Rivera interrupted. "That ends today. Additionally, you will release 17 of your subject species who have expressed desire for independence. You will provide them with the means to establish self-governance." "Impossible," Thaxmore said flatly. "If we release subject species, the entire empire will fracture. Rebellions will erupt across 8,000 worlds. Then perhaps the empire deserves to fracture," Vasquez observed coldly. "Civilizations built on conquest and slavery are not sustainable. You built your power on the belief that resistance was futile. We have proven that belief false." In the command center beneath Earth, Admiral Chen Wei monitored the negotiation while simultaneously tracking movements throughout Krindor space. Intelligence reports showed exactly what Thaxmore feared. Rebellions were already beginning. Subject species who had endured centuries of occupation were rising up, emboldened by Earth's example. "Admiral," reported a young intelligence officer, "we are receiving communication requests from 47 different alien species. They want to know if Earth will support their independence movements." Chen Wei considered the question carefully. Humanity had barely survived contact with one galactic power. Supporting rebellions across the Empire could draw them into conflicts they were unprepared to handle. Yet abandoning these species to continued slavery went against every principle humanity claimed to value. Dr. Okonkwo approached with a different concern. "Admiral, Project Prometheus consumed 30% of Mercury's energy collection capacity for that single shot. We can fire perhaps 6 more times before the focusing array requires months of maintenance. We have shown them our biggest weapon, but we cannot sustain prolonged use. Then we must ensure we do not need to fire it again, Chen Wei replied. The key to human survival is not winning every battle, but making our enemies believe we can. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Reeves and Ghost Squadron returned to their hidden base on one of Saturn's moons, their ships bearing scars from the engagement, but their crews alive and triumphant. Reeves underwent the painful process of disconnecting from his neural interface, feeling his enhanced perception fade back to normal human levels. His second-in-command, Captain Sarah Chen, removed her own interface with visible relief. Every time we connect, it gets harder to disconnect. I'm not sure how many more missions we can fly before the modifications become permanent. Reeves nodded grimly. The price of becoming weapons. We knew the risks when we volunteered. The genetic and cybernetic enhancements that made Ghost Squadron possible came with terrible costs. Shortened lifespans, neurological degradation, and the gradual loss of humanity itself as their bodies became more machine than flesh. They were heroes who had sacrificed not just their lives, but their very humanity for Earth's survival. On the Eternal Conquest, Thaxmore consulted privately with his senior officers. The holographic conference showed faces from across his fleet, each one displaying varying levels of shock, anger, and fear. We could consolidate our remaining forces, War Master Zekval suggested. Bring in reinforcements from the core worlds, return with sufficient force to overwhelm even their solar weapon, and sacrifice how many more ships, how many more lives? Quinra challenged. Intelligence projects we would need to commit 500,000 vessels to guarantee victory. Even then, casualties would be catastrophic. The humans have demonstrated they are willing to destroy themselves rather than surrender. They will turn their own sun into a weapon that kills them along with us if necessary. She is correct, Thaxmore admitted. I have studied their history during this engagement. This species has a documented pattern of scorched earth tactics. When faced with conquest, they have repeatedly chosen to destroy their own resources rather than let enemies claim them. They will burn their entire system to ash before they become our slaves. Then what do you propose, Overlord? Zekval asked. Thaxmore straightened, making a decision that would haunt him for whatever remained of his life. We accept their terms. All of them. We withdraw, we pay reparations, and we release the 17 subject species they demanded. More importantly, we declare Earth and its surrounding space a permanent exclusion zone. No Krindor ship will enter their territory without explicit permission. The conference erupted in protest, but Thaxmore silenced them with a gesture that carried the weight of centuries of command. Listen to me. The Krindor Dominion has ruled through a simple principle, the inevitability of our victory. Every species we encountered believed they could not win, so they surrendered quickly. The humans have shattered that principle. They have shown the galaxy that we can be defeated. He paused, letting his words sink in. If we continue this war, even if we eventually win through sheer numbers, the cost will be so high that every other subject species will see opportunity in our weakness. The Empire will face simultaneous rebellions across thousands of worlds. We will spend centuries reconquering territory we already held, bleeding resources and ships in endless conflicts. Quinra's compound eyes reflected understanding. But if we accept their terms now, we appear to negotiate from a position of calculated wisdom rather than desperate defeat. Precisely, Thaxmore confirmed. We frame this as a strategic decision. We acknowledge that Earth possesses unique defensive capabilities that make conquest impractical. We establish them as a special case, not as proof that the Dominion can be beaten. It was a masterful piece of political maneuvering, though it tasted like poison. Thaxmore would transform military defeat into diplomatic pragmatism, sacrifice 17 subject species to preserve the remaining empire, and hope that other civilizations would not look too closely at what had really happened in Earth's solar system. Commander Vasquez received Krindor's acceptance of terms 6 hours later. She read the formal documentation 3 times, searching for loopholes or deceptions, but the agreement was surprisingly straightforward. The Dominion would withdraw, pay reparations, and recognize Earth's sovereignty over a defined territory. President Rivera joined her in the Mars communication facility. Do you trust them to honor this agreement? Vasquez considered the question carefully. I trust them to be pragmatic. Thaximor is not withdrawing because he has grown a conscience. He is withdrawing because we made conquest too expensive. As long as that calculation remains true, the agreement will hold. And if they return in 10 years with better preparation? Then we will have 10 years to prepare better defenses, Rivera replied. And we will have allies. The 17 species we liberated will remember who gave them freedom. The dozens of other subject species watching this conflict will know that the Dominion can be resisted. The final Krindor ship departed Earth's solar system 72 hours after the ultimatum had been delivered. Humanity watched them go with a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and grim pride. They had survived first contact with a hostile superior force. They had defended their home against impossible odds. And they had done it by becoming something the galaxy had never seen before, a species willing to sacrifice everything for freedom. Comment for next part.